Guys, I have been trying to do the intro to this video now for probably an hour, and I'm just pathetically embarrassing myself every step of the way. It's like I'm having a continuous stroke, and I can't get the intro out. But this time we're powering through it no matter what. This is the last time I'm recording it. It is Tuesday, which means it is time for NFL Power Rankings Week 9 edition, post-trade deadline edition. I wanted to wait a little bit to see what trades happened, what moves were made, and of course nothing happened because nothing ever happens during the trade deadline, even though we always get our hopes up into thinking something will happen. No moves are ever made, ever, right? Or at least big moves. We did have some moves made this year, yesterday, I believe. So we'll discuss those trades a little bit more in detail as we get to these teams individually. Before we start with the Power Rankings, just want to say, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, all that good stuff, man. We're small, we're growing. All of those interactions help us out a lot, and I will be forever in your debt if you did those things. Also, it is Tuesday, which means it is the election. So by the time you're watching this, we might know who the president is. If you're watching this before then, just want to say, stay safe tonight, man. Maybe don't go out for milk tonight, all right? Maybe stay inside the house and lock the doors. Shit could get crazy. All right, moving on. Let's go. Power rankings. Number 32. You already know who it is. It's the New York Jets. They are absolutely abysmal. Sam Darnold is hurt now. They just are a terrible team. I'm happy they did not trade Quinnen Williams, though. I thought that would have been a little bit of a mistake, a little too early to give up on a guy who you spent a premier pick on. It's in his second year, and he's starting to look good. That would make no sense to trade him. I mean, it's the Jets, so it actually would have made perfect sense, but I'm happy that they didn't do it. Moving on to number 31, we have the Dallas Cowboys, who I considered moving up in the rankings, but I didn't, simply because this felt like their best chance to win a game, right? I am in the camp that I don't believe this team wins another game the rest of the season. I really do believe that. I just think they're terrible. And they come out against the Eagles, a defense that has forced 3 turnovers through 7 games. They come out on Sunday night and force 4 turnovers, and they still lose by multiple scores, right? So I just don't know how this team wins, man, because this defense obviously is not good enough to have a performance like that again. You're not going to be playing Carson Wentz every week, right? So, yeah, I don't think this team wins another game. Bleacher Report has them at 27. I don't know what in the fuck they're watching out there, but it's not the Dallas Cowboys games. All right, moving on to number 30, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are off of a bye week. Really nothing to say about this Jags team. They are who we thought they were, losers of 6 straight. Now we go to 29. We have the New York Football Giants, who lost last night to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they look competitive, man. You had a controversial defensive pass interference no call and that 2-point conversion. I don't think it was a DPI. Terrible throw by Daniel Jones. Their defense is good, man. Bradbury is an absolute beast. He's one of the best corners in the NFL. And they have some solid young pieces to, build a nice defense around moving forward. Offensively, I just don't think Daniel Jones is it, man. It's weird because he's only a second-year player and he does show flashes. But my God, it's just like you can't overlook all of these turnovers, man. We're at this point in the NFL, right, where the quarterback talent pool is so good. The quarterback talent pool is so good, maybe the best it's ever been. So every quarterback in the NFL has these flashes. Every quarterback in the NFL has good games, or good drives, or amazing throws. But it's the ones who can consistently put it together that are the elite quarterbacks. And I just don't know if Daniel Jones is capable of that, man. He's second in the league in turnovers this year. He's just a turnover machine. You just can't win games when your quarterback is turning the ball over this much, man. And I don't know how much of it is his fault. I mean, it's a good amount, dude. A good amount of it is his fault. I don't think I'm ready to give up on him just yet because, again, there have been those flashes, right? That throw to Deion Lewis was crazy. That throw to Golden Tate was crazy. But it's just like, does all of that stuff really outweigh the terrible interceptions and fumbles? I can't say confidently that it does. I don't know what the Giants do moving forward. A solid defense, though. That's for sure. Next up, we have the Houston Texans, who are off of a bye week, so they do not move. I've seen a lot of Texans fans upset they didn't make any moves this deadline. They didn't trade away with Will Fuller. That was probably the biggest player who was in like legitimate trade talks. Maybe him and Stephon Gilmore. I don't mind it. Obviously, they could have made some moves seeing as they have 0 picks, or at least they don't have a first-round pick next year, and it looks like their picks can be premier. So it would have been nice to see them get some picks back. But maybe they think that they can bring Will Fuller back on a team-friendly deal. And if they think that, then there's really no reason to just give him away for a 5th, 6th-round pick if you think you can bring him back. So I really don't mind them not trading Will Fuller. And outside of that, I mean, who do they have? Brandon Cooks. It's like, what are you going to get for Brandon Cooks? If anything, because he's got a big contract. Like, what are you going to get for these guys that makes it worth it? You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't mind them not making any moves. Or I don't mind them not settling. How about that? Next up, we have the Washington football team, who drop after a bye week, only because of what's going on around them. It has nothing to do with anything Washington football team is doing. I do think that they're a player in the NFC East. Truthfully, I do believe that. We'll see moving forward. Next up, falling all the way down to 26. Just a couple of weeks ago, this team was in my top 10. I feel like a doofus for that. It is the New England Patriots, who are free-falling. Just an absolute free fall. And realistically, they really didn't look that bad against Buffalo. I mean, they had that game in the bag, right? They're marching downfield. They ran the ball all over Buffalo, who, I mean, let's be real, who hasn't this year? But Cam fumbles the ball away. And they lose. It sucks to see, man. This season is like a perfect representation of Cam Newton's career, where it starts off amazing. MVP levels, right? And then it doesn't just slowly regress. He falls off of a cliff into an endless void and is just continuously falling. And it's honestly just sad to watch. I don't know what they do moving forward. Obviously, they were shopping Stephon Gilmore, so I wouldn't want to say that they're punting the season. I don't think a team with Bill Belichick is ever going to be punting a season, but it's obvious that they don't think they have the tools to compete this year. They did trade for Isaiah Ford from Miami, and it's just like, okay, they bring in another guy. It's not like he's going to change the offense. I did like what I saw from Jacoby Myers, though. I will say that. I did like what I saw from Jacoby Myers. And, yeah, that's all I got to say about this Pats team, man. It's kind of crazy to see, but and it goes deeper than Tom Brady, right? Because I know people have been saying that on Twitter that, oh, my God, look at Bill without Tom. It goes way, way, way deeper than that. But it is interesting. That's all I'll say. It is pretty interesting. All right, moving forward to number 25, we have the Eagles, who dropped 3 spots despite beating the Cowboys. Reason being, Carson Wentz is horrific. That's it. Carson Wentz is just a bad quarterback. Again, it's like what I said with Daniel Jones. Every quarterback in the NFL is capable of putting together a couple good games. Every quarterback in the NFL is capable of putting together a couple good drives, right? So Eagles fans really hype themselves up because Carson Wentz will look like shit for 58 minutes, and in the final 2 minutes, he'll just pull a miraculous drive out of his ass. And everyone says, well, that last drive, it just shows you. Dude, this is a fifth-year quarterback, man. Okay? This is a fifth-year, 27-year-old quarterback. He is what he is. He might even be 28. Let me see. How old is Carson Wentz? I think he's 27. That actually sounds not right. He might be 28. He's 27. Okay, he is 27. So we're not talking about like a Daniel Jones second-year player here. We're talking about a fifth-year, 27-year-old quarterback. Sure, the flashes are pretty amazing. I will say that. Like Patrick Mahomes. I can't believe I just said Patrick Mahomes talking about Carson Wentz. Can't believe I just did that. Carson Wentz, sure, he has moments where he looks good, makes some really good throws. That throw to Fulgham is great. But again, like every quarterback in the NFL, because the quarterback talent pool is so rich, any quarterback can make that throw. It's just, can you do it consistently? Can you not have bonehead turnovers? I saw Dan Overedsky, or however the fuck you pronounce his last name, on First Take saying, well, only one of those 4 turnovers was his fault. It's like, dude, are we really doing this? How come every time Carson Wentz turns it over, it is never his fault? All 4 of those were terrible, terrible turnovers. All 4. All 4 of those turnovers to a team that only had 3 turnovers going into the game. You turn the ball over 4 times. This team is just limited by their terrible quarterback. It is what it is. Sorry, Eagles fans. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you it. Next up at 24, we have the Bengals' shocking win against the Tennessee Titans on Sunday. They looked good, man. Burrow is a superstar in the making. T. Higgins is a superstar in the making. They do have young pieces. I really like Tyler Boyd as well. I like Auden Tate, too. I wish he saw the field a little bit more, truthfully. Obviously, they have ways to go, man. This offensive line, it's not good, although Burrow did not get sacked a single time on Sunday, which is a step in the right direction, right? Because Burrow was the most sacked quarterback heading into the week. And their defense obviously needs some work, but you get a nice win. This team's been competitive this year. They've been competitive. They're going to have a fun offense. They're going to have a fun offense with Burrow and guys like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. They're gonna have a fun offense. They just need to beef up that O-line. They need to improve on defense. I still think they're a few years away from really competing, but you have the key pieces you need. That's for sure. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings, who take care of business, man, against the Green Bay Packers. They look really good. I pretty much stuck the nail in the coffin on this team 2 weeks ago when they lost to the Falcons before their bye week. I thought that was it. I still think maybe they dug themselves a little too deep of a hole, but I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility that they make a comeback here. Dalvin Cook would have to stay healthy. He looked amazing. He looked absolutely amazing. I mean, there are definitely times where Dalvin Cook looks like the best running back in the NFL. And, Kirk, honestly, has looked fine. I mean, he's had his moments where he's looked terrible, but all in all, I think he's looked fine. But can they get that consistent play out of their defense moving forward? Because they're going to probably have to go 8-1 or I mean maybe 7-2 the rest of the way to make the playoffs. I don't know if they're capable of doing that. I think they did dig themselves too deep of a hole, but I probably see them finishing around 500. Moving on, we have the Atlanta Falcons, another team just like the Vikings who probably dug themselves too deep of a hole. I think this could have been a playoff team. I mean, you look at it, right? They're 2-6. They just won against the Panthers. Their defense has honestly been pretty impressive the last 3 weeks. If their special teams just jumps on that onside kick against the Cowboys, they're 3-5. Now we're thinking about them a little bit differently, right? If Todd Gurley falls at the 1 yard line instead of going into the end zone, now all of a sudden they're 4-4. And if they don't have an epic collapse against the Bears, now all of a sudden they're 5-3. And we're looking at this team very differently. I get that's not how that works, and I get a large reason why they give up leads is because their defense is terrible. But like I said, their defense has been better the past few weeks. And again, I mean, when you start the season the way that they did, I think they dug themselves way too deep of a hole to make the playoffs. But I don't know. They would probably either have to win out or only lose one game the rest of the way to have a chance, and I don't see that happening. But they're not as bad as the record indicates. I like the way they looked against Carolina on Thursday night. Next up, we have Carolina, the team that lost to the Falcons on Thursday night. The Panthers lost 3 in a row, man. It kind of feels like they're free falling. But again, they've been competitive. They've lost all of those 3 losses have been against you have the Falcons, but the Bears are a solid team. The Saints are a good team. All of those losses were one possession losses, so they've been competitive all season long. But I think the playoff dreams are probably dead. I do. But again, it's like this team is way. I don't want to say ahead of schedule as far as the rebuild goes because there's a lot of different factors that play into that. But this team is playing way above where people thought they'd be playing. Right? People thought this was going to be, I mean, them and the Jags. People thought the Panthers and the Jags are going to be the worst team, and the Jets, obviously, were going to be the worst teams in the NFL. But the Panthers have been playing way above expectations. And that's exciting to see. If you're a Panthers fan, that has to be exciting to see. The defense is shaky. Teddy Bridgewater, I don't think he's a long-term option there. I know he played really well against the Saints, but then I know it was rainy and bad weather on Thursday night. He gets a dirty hit. He has to leave the game. He comes back in and throws the game-ending pick. I don't know if there were lingering effects from that hit he took. But, again, this Panthers team has exceeded expectations. So if I'm a Panthers fan, I'm excited, even though the playoff dreams are probably dead. But there's a lot to look forward to moving forward. Next up, we have the Detroit Lions, who dropped to 20 after getting just absolutely ran through by the Indianapolis Colts. It's like I picked this team to make the playoffs, right? They start 1-3. I jump ship. They go 3-3. Brett, during our picks, was telling me that he's asking me if I'm bought back in. I'm going to pick him to beat the Colts. I picked them to lose this game. I knew they were going to lose this game. The Lions are just the Lions, man. There's just some teams in the NFL where it feels like there's an escapable culture. And the Lions are one of these teams. Like, the Lions have never, ever had good running games, ever, in my lifetime. And what do they have? 8 yards? 8 yards on 11 carries? Or is it 11 yards on 8 carries from the running backs? You can never win a game like that, ever. That is abysmal, man. Like, all of their rushing yards came from one Matt Stafford scramble and an end around. That's just, you're not going to win any games playing that way. Like, I'm not the biggest believer and you have to run the ball 30 times to win, but you can't win a game running for the 11 yards, right? That's almost unheard of. The Lions just can never run the ball. I don't know what the hell it is. No matter who's coaching, no matter who's on the team, it's wild. Next up, we have the LA Chargers, who are at 19 despite being 2-5, despite just collapsing in hilarious fashion yet again, man. Them and the Falcons just love losing. They're just allergic to winning. They can never, ever just win. Right, the Chargers go out and they look good enough to win all game long, and then the game ends and you're like, they lost? That's how every game is with this team. I don't know how they ended up losing that game to the Broncos. Lynn, you got to go. You got to be gone. You have to be gone. Just no way Anthony Lynn lasts any longer than this season. They probably write him out. But they traded Desmond King, which I'm cool with. Honestly, they didn't utilize him correctly at all, and he was a pending free agent. Obviously, like a 6th-round pick doesn't seem right when it comes to Desmond King, but, it is what it is. The Chargers, obviously, I think they're way, way, way better than their 2-5 record indicates, but they are 2-5. They love losing. They just love it. They love it. They're allergic to winning. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos, the team who beat the Chargers. I guess I have to put them here, man. They're 3-4. I thought this team was like a sneaky playoff team before the season started. In fact, I had them making the playoffs, and Von Miller got hurt, and then I had him out. I don't know. I don't know what to think about this team because their wins are really gross. Like, it's not like they've really impressed. Obviously, they've been injured. They've been really, really injured. But I don't know. I just don't know what to think. They had no business winning that game on Sunday. Zero business. Locke has looked really bad at times. I'm just going to be honest, man. He's looked really bad. I know he came back and won on Sunday, but it's not like he even really looked that impressive. I do like that it kind of feels like they're finally starting to figure out how to utilize both Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay properly. That's good. That's good to see moving forward. But I just don't know if this team has what it takes to sneak into the playoffs. I just don't. And I saw a tweet today that Von Miller said he might be back in 5 weeks. That would be crazy. That would be absolutely crazy if he was able to come back that quickly. But, we'll see. They're 3-1 in their last 4 games. Of course, wins against the Jets, a hideously ugly win against the Patriots, who now suck, and a baffling win against the Chargers. And in the meantime, in the middle of that, they got absolutely blown out by the Chiefs. So I don't really know what to think of this team moving forward, but they are 3-4. I mean, they're very much alive. Next up at number 17, we have the Chicago Bears. 5-3, obviously, a good record. I have been very public and very vocal about my belief that this team is not very good and that this team might not even make the playoffs even though they started so hot. It would require an epic collapse. I think they are very capable of doing that. They have a good defense, man. They maybe even have a great defense. But like I've said with this team, their offense is so bad, their defense needs to score. Like, their defense has to score touchdowns in order for them to really have a chance to win. They have no quarterback. Their offensive line is terrible. Matt Nagy looked good. Like, Matt Nagy almost reminds me of Jason Garrett in a way where there were times during the Jason Garrett era where the Cowboys would come out and do all these different crazy things on offense, and it would be really encouraging. And then come halftime, they're back to doing their same bullshit. Like, Nagy came out against the Saints, and the offense, they were getting a bunch of guys utilized. They were getting the ball to Allen Robinson. They were doing things that you wanted them to do, and then it was like something happened, and Nagy was like, all right, time for me to take over. And they had to give the ball to Cordell Patterson for 1 yard 15 times. I just don't know. I don't know. This 17 feels like a very, very, very good spot. This team is either average to maybe a little bit below average. The offense just completely holds them back. All right, next up at number 16, we have San Francisco 49ers. Team is just beat to hell, dude. Like, again, I've said this team is possible to gauge, and I don't know. They're just so hurt. Jimmy G now is out for, I believe I saw 6 weeks, and George Kittle is out for 8 weeks. So they cannot escape the injury bug. It is kind of crazy to see. They traded Quan Alexander away, which is kind of crazy, so they just gave him an extension recently. But it is interesting seeing a trade like that because the Saints fans are all super excited they got Quan Alexander, and 49ers fans are incredibly happy to see him leave because you have Fred Warner. Quan Alexander's been sort of underperforming. So that's always interesting to me when a team is really happy to acquire a player and the other team that's giving them the player away is really happy. So that's always funny to me. But 49ers here at 16, that feels fair. They're just super hurt. We do know the ceiling of this team, right? But I think their injuries prevent them from reaching that. Next up at number 15, we have the Cleveland Browns who lose in a stinker against the Raiders. I'm not going to hold this one too much against the Browns or Baker. I've seen people just shit on Baker for Sunday. I don't think that's really fair, dude. The weather was just horrific. It was super windy, and quarterbacks almost never play well. They just couldn't stop the run, which is interesting because I thought it would be the other way around. I picked the Browns to win this game because I wasn't convinced the Raiders' defense would be able to stop the Browns' run game. But the Browns just struggled to get anything going on offense, and they could not stop the run at all. So, in a weird game like this where the weather's terrible, that's what you have to do, and they just weren't able to do it. They only had 6 drives on offense. They could not get off the field. Only 6 drives is insane, guys. That's absolutely insane. So, yeah, I drop them just one spot because I'm not holding this loss too much against them. Next up, we have the Rams, who dropped 6 spots. I have zero clue what to think of this team now, dude. I've said that I thought that this team was a sneaky Super Bowl contender. I still partially believe that just because I think the way they're built, that they could make the playoffs and compete with anybody. But, man, it's like if they can come out and play their game and get Goff to just make the one-read throws and just tell Goff, hey, go out there and just do what we need you to do. Don't do anything else. If they can do that successfully, they can win games and compete with anybody. But the second that Goff has to not necessarily win a game himself, but do more than what he's asked, it is a complete and total disaster. It's a complete and total disaster. Dude turned the ball over 4 times in the first half, I believe. That's absolutely terrible. I don't know. It's like another one of these instances where an offense or quarterback play sort of limits the ceiling of the team. That's kind of where this Rams team is at right now. I do think that, they can still compete with anybody, but they do have the potential for games like this with Jared Goff. And obviously that's a little bit scary. Next up, we have at number 13, the team that beat the Rams, the Dolphins. Dolphins at number 13. That's nuts. This is just a weird game for the Dolphins, man. Tua makes his debut. Really doesn't look that good at all, but, I mean, he didn't do anything. Like, he didn't have to do anything. This team just, I don't even know how to describe it. It was one of the weirdest games I've ever seen. How they were able to score. They got the strip sack fumble for a touchdown, and then they ran a kick for a touchdown, I think, and then they had another it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. It was good to see Myles Gaskin finally get in the end zone. That was nice to see. But obviously, you can't really make, Tua didn't really leave any impression. It's impossible to have any gauge of Tua in this offense moving forward from this game. But, a good win against a good Rams team. They sort of solidify themselves as playoff contenders. Let me tell you guys, Brian Flores is knocking on the door. Not for like the best coach in the NFL, but like top 5. He's in that area. He really is. Brian Flores is one of the best coaches in the NFL. I'm so jealous of the Dolphins. They are building something pretty special there. All right, next up we have the Raiders, who are at number 12. Like I mentioned when I talked about the Browns, just a really bad weather game. They were able to go out and run the ball. They gave the ball to Josh Jacobs a million times, and he was able to just run down this defense. They milked the clock. They kept the Browns off the field. They only put up 16 points. Again, terrible weather. And they do what they had to do to win. That is what I like about this this Raiders team is it seems like they come out every week knowing what it is they have to do to win. And if they can just do that, I know that sounds super cliche and obvious, but it's just when you watch them, you sort of see what I'm saying. It's like they come into the game knowing what it is they have to do. They came into the game against the Browns and said, let's keep the Browns off the field. It's going to be bad weather. Let's run the ball. And they came out and they were able to do that, and they won the game. So I like this Raiders team, man. I just have a feeling that they're going to be one of these teams that wins a game, loses a game, wins a game, loses a game, and now all of a sudden they're 8-8 out of the playoffs. I think this team could make the playoffs, but we're going to have to see some consistency. I want them to string together some wins instead of just keep continuously trading wins and losses. All right, next up, at number 11, we have the Tennessee Titans, who drop out of the top 10. This is the worst third down defense I've ever seen, maybe. They're giving up third downs at a 60% clip. Third down conversions at a 60% clip. That is by far the highest in the NFL. Just for a point of reference, last year, the Washington Redskins, they were the Redskins at that point. Last year, the Redskins had the worst third down defense in the NFL, and they allowed first downs on like 49% of third down attempts. And the Titans are at 61%. This third down defense is terrible, man. They cannot generate any pressure. Their secondary is bad, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that they cannot get pressure. They just can't. The Bengals gave up the most sacks in the NFL, had one of the worst offensive lines going into last week, and they didn't get a single sack. It definitely limits this team, man. It definitely limits this team. They're at 11. I mean, they're 5-2, right? We've seen them beat good teams. We know they can do it, but they have to figure something out on defense. Next up, we have the Buffalo Bills, who beat the Patriots. Again, a team that needs to figure some stuff out on defense. This run defense is abysmal. They got ran all over yet again. Again, a game that they probably could have very easily lost if Cam didn't cough that ball up towards the end. I've said it's just the same thing we've said for weeks about the Bills, where, the offense looks pretty good. The offense has obviously toned it down since the start of the season, but can they stop the run? Like, it's hard to see them really going that far if they get ran all over like this continuously. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit because I don't want this video to go too long. Next up at number 9, we have the Arizona Cardinals off of a bye week. Nothing to say about that. And here at number 8, we have... Get out of here, Cardinals. At number 8, we have the Baltimore Ravens, who drop after losing to the Steelers. I don't know what they're doing. Lamar is not having a good year at all, and it's not necessarily his fault. It is his fault in a way. Like, I've seen a lot of people trying to absolve Lamar of any blame. It's Lamar's fault. I mean, he's playing bad. Like, he's throwing the ball like shit. It just is what it is. It's like every other play, he's trying to sidearm the ball. I don't know what the deal is with that, why he's continuously trying to sidearm. I wish he would just throw it regularly. But it's like the Ravens were so good last year because they knew the team they were, man. They were going to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and run the ball. And now this year, it feels like, obviously, their offensive line is nowhere near as good as it was last year. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. Obviously, Mark Ingram is a year older, and now he's hurt as well. But J.K. Dobbins has looked really good. it seems like they went away from that and instead are trying to – it does seem like they're trying to develop Lamar as a passer. And because of that, they're throwing the ball a lot more. They're trying to give Lamar opportunities to throw the ball and improve as a passer. But he's just not good enough at throwing the ball. You're a Super Bowl contending team. I don't feel like you have the luxury of doing this. I don't feel like you have the luxury of just trying to develop players when you're trying to contend for a Super Bowl. And obviously, the sky's not falling. They're 5-2. Right, we've seen at times this season where they've looked like the best team in the NFL, and I do think they can compete with anybody. But Lamar's going to have to play better against these elite top-level teams. That's been the issue with Lamar in his career, where he looks really good against like the terrible teams, but then he goes up against the good teams and it's a bit shaky. I don't know. This Ravens team is interesting because they have the talent, and we've seen what they're capable of, but they're going to need Lamar to throw the ball better. I mean, point blank, or they're going to have to play into their strengths way more. I don't know. I do think this team will figure it out, though. I do have like some weird confidence in that. Next up at number 7, we have the New Orleans Saints, who I've been, hard on at times this year, but it looks like they are kind of starting to figure things out. Obviously, is Mike Thomas ever coming back? Who knows? Kamara looks amazing. Their defense has really looked better the past couple of weeks, and they go out and get Quan Alexander, which is nice because they need some linebacker play. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the Saints team. I still don't think, there's some people who thought this could have been the best team in the NFL. I don't think they'll ever reach that, but they look like a really, really solid, strong team. Next up at number 6, we have the Indianapolis Colts, who I think I'm higher on. Yeah, as you can see, I'm higher on than anybody else. I just think this defense is really, really good. I don't think they're the best defense in the NFL. I think by yards per game, they're up there. They might be number 1, but they have a top 2, top 3 defense. And, Leonard is an absolute monster out there. They're now forcing turnovers, and their defense is scoring points. And Philip Rivers has looked really solid the last few weeks. He's looked really solid the last few weeks. If there's anything I have to say about this team, is Jonathan Taylor looks terrible. He looks terrible out there. He can't make guys miss. It doesn't feel like he has any explosiveness. I've been waiting to see that, and we've all sort of expected that it was going to happen at some point. Everybody pegged this game against the Lions as the game we were going to see that, and we didn't see it. So that's a little depressing. I don't. It's not that big of a deal, right? Because they have such a good offensive line. We saw Jordan Wilkins come in, or Jonathan. I think something Wilkins come in and run the ball really well. So, yeah, I like this Colts team a lot. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers here at number 5 after losing to the Vikings. I don't know. This Packers team is really weird because they look like world beaters at times, but their 2 losses have been really disappointing. But so disappointing to where I almost just toss them away and just attribute it to just a bad game. Even really good teams have bad games from time to time. You lose to the Vikings, a division rival. Division games are always weird. So I guess we'll just chalk it up to that. Obviously, the run defense is a little bit scary. Their defense is scary, like in a bad way, for the Packers. Their defense is a little bit worrisome. But, I'm not ready to say the sky's falling for this team or anything yet. That's just a vibe I got from these 2 losses, that they're not the end of the world. They're not world-ending losses. All right, next up at number 4, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who do not move at all after beating the Giants. Yeah, they didn't look very pretty. Brady struggled a lot in the first half, but he figured it out in the second half. Their defense was just torturing Daniel Jones all night. They got an amazing defense. Maybe they could beef up their D-line a little bit. I know that's crazy to say because their D-line is good, but they are dealing with some injuries. But, man, when you have one of the better linebacking duos in the NFL and your secondary is playing as good as it has been, Winfield is just such a beast, man. Whitfield is a beast out there. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about this Bucs team. Antonio Brown's coming back. Chris Godwin hopefully will be back soon. I mean, this team is really good, guys. It could be the best team in the NFC. At number 3, we have the Seattle Seahawks, who looked good against San Francisco. DK Metcalf is a demon. He's terrifying out there. Again, the defense is not very good. But this offense just has the potential. This offense on a weekly basis is just ready to go the fuck off against anybody. It does not matter who they are playing. So when your defense is this good, obviously when your offense is this good, you'd obviously like to have a good defense. But they make do with what they got. Their offense is just so good that it kind of outweighs how bad their defense is. All right, number 2, we have Kansas City, who destroyed the Chiefs. I think probably I would say the Chiefs are probably the best team in the NFL, but for power ranking purposes, I have them here at number 2 because the Steelers are at number 1, 7-0, undefeated. This win says win against Buffalo. Obviously, they beat the Baltimore Ravens 38-24. They looked really sloppy in the first half. It's interesting because last week against the Titans, they look terrible in the second half. This week against the Ravens, they look terrible in the first half. So, it'd be nice to see them play a little bit more consistently. Their offense is a little bit questionable, a little bit shaky at times, but their defense is just absurdly good. It's the best defense in the NFL. They force turnovers. They put pressure on you. I saw, some Ravens fans say, well, this Steelers team isn't that good. If you just don't turn the ball over and get sacked, you could easily beat this fraud team. It's like, okay, then why has nobody done it? We're 8 weeks into the season. No one has been able to not turn the ball over against this defense. This is what this defense does. It's just what they do. It's how they play. They play so aggressively because they have the talent to do so. They rush the passer, they force you to make mistakes, and they take advantage of those mistakes in a big way. So the Steelers team is really good. Obviously the offense is a little spooky. It's like offensively on a week-to-week basis, they go into each week saying, okay, this week Juju's going to get all the targets. Okay, this week Deontay Johnson's going to get all the targets. All right, this week Chase Claypool's going to get all the targets. It's like, can they just come in and work in all of those guys? It feels like they never have a game where all three receivers are playing really well. It's always just one. I don't know. It's frustrating as an owner of Deontay Johnson to watch him go out there and get 0 points. Oh, he gets a last minute 4-yard catch. Okay. That's really all I got. Steelers are the best team in the NFL. Leave a comment. Tell me where I was wrong. Tell me why I have your favorite team too low. Tell me why I have your least favorite team too high. All that stuff. I love talking about power rankings. Leave a comment down below. I love having discussion if you made it this far. Like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Okay, good luck out there tonight, guys. I'm hoping that shit doesn't hit the fan. I really am. But more than likely it's going to. So stay safe. Be careful. What crazy times we live in, people. All right, bye-bye.